Hello everyone, good afternoon. So welcome to the launch event for BIOREME. So this is a new EPSRC funded network. My name is Anne Canning, so I'm the project manager for the grant alongside my colleague Carl Whitfield. We're really pleased to have so many of you join us today, and fantastic to see such wide representation of attendees from different disciplines and sectors. So today we will be hearing from our network team. There has been one change to the scheduled agenda. Unfortunately, Salman has been called away on an emergency, but the network's co-chair, Alex Wolseley, has kindly stepped in to provide context from a clinical perspective. So just a few notes, the event is being recorded and will be shared publicly after the event. Please note Salman's presentation will be edited into the recording that we share publicly afterwards, so you will be able to see what he was intending to discuss with you. During the event, we will have the Q&A session at the end, so please do use the Q&A box on the Zoom webinar to post any questions throughout, and we'll aim to address those at the end of the event. So without further ado, I will hand over to our first presenter, the chair of the network, Dr. Bindi Brook.
Hi, thank you, Anne. Hello, everyone. Let me try and get to my slides. Hi, everyone, and welcome from me as well to the launch of BIOREME, our EPSRC funded Network Plus. I'm Bindi Brook from the University of Nottingham, and I just want to spend a few minutes introducing the network to you and how it aims to deliver real solutions to real problems. So what are these problems or challenges? Well, if we're going to talk about respiratory disease, then we really should start with what the last 2 years has taught us. And that is how important it is to be able to breathe. From COVID patients on ICUs to George Floyd's "I can't breathe," the link isn't as tenuous as you may think. Respiratory disease is one of the 3 biggest killers in the UK and strongly linked to social deprivation. And COVID has just made that worse. Even before COVID, diseases like asthma and COPD were claiming 1 life every 5 minutes in the UK. And yet funding for respiratory research before COVID was only 8% of what went into cancer and cardiovascular research. This has knock-on consequences for fundamental research, discovering new drugs, and getting them to market. Some of the delay is down to long, costly clinical trials that rely on endpoints that might not be suitable. Why not? Well, partly because we still use fairly outdated blunt measures such as FEV1. We really need new endpoints that rely on data from different sources, but these are poorly linked at the minute. Let's take a look at some examples. We can image the lungs. This is We can image the lungs. This is hyperpolarized gas MRI. We can measure what's in our breath and carry out all kinds of sophisticated experiments and trials. These give us lots of data at each scale, from genes all the way to the organ and populations. But a lot of the problems we need to solve are inherently multi-scale. Let's take asthma as an example. Someone breathes in an allergen. First, it doesn't necessarily land uniformly everywhere in the lung. When it does land on the airway wall, the effect of that allergen is eventually felt right down at the subcellular level, where proteins interact to cause smooth muscle cells to contract and in turn cause constriction of the airways. This in turn affects airflow in and out of the lungs. Every process at each scale has some impact on what is eventually measured at the mouth. So data on its own at each scale is not enough. We need to be able to link them. Mathematical and computational models that account for underlying biology and physics can help us do just that by linking processes at different scales. For example, here is a smooth muscle cell model being stretched during breathing. This is a model in which many such cells interact. And this is a model of an airway containing these contracting cells, causing bronchoconstriction. And here's a model of airflow in a 3D geometry. Going up a scale, here are examples of many such airways in the lung linked to imaging and clever mathematical approaches. All such models can help us link data sources and come up with new outcome measures for clinical trials. Combining models with data can also significantly enhance their predictive power, allowing us to answer questions like, why does patient group A respond to drug X, but not patient group B? Or what are the possible responses of the system to a therapy Z, as illustrated by this bronchial thermoplasty study? And now we have diseases like long COVID emerging, which goes well beyond the lungs and will require integration and linking up of data from other systems to really understand the disease. Okay, so I've given you a whistle-stop tour of where we are right now. But for too long, we've been developing these technologies separately in our own silos. What we really want is for this network to break down the silos and bring these powerful technologies together to help people breathe with better treatments and new therapies. We will now hear from 3 of our network members who will give you some concrete examples of our vision, starting with Dr. Carl Whitfield, and I will see you again at the end to tell you about our next steps. Thank you. And I will hand over to Carl.
Thank you very much, Bindi, for that introduction.